ឥឡូវនេះខ្ញុំដឹងថាមានលោក Julian Hill ក៏ត្រូវការបញ្ញាប់បន្តមកទៀតលោក Julian Hill គឺជាអ្នកដែលតស៊ូជាមួយយើងឆ្នាំណាស់ជាសមាជិកសភានៅមណ្ឌល Bruce នឹងជាសមាជិកសភាថ្មីហើយដែលជាសមាជិកសភាដែលយកចិត្តទុកដាក់គ្រប់ឱកាសទាំងអស់គាត់ឡើងថែសង្កថានៅរដ្ឋសភាហើយក៏គាត់បាននិយាយពីអត្តមិនដែរដូច្នេះសូមឲ្យគាត់មកឡើងនិយាយហើយខ្ញុំជឿថាបងអូនក្មួយតាស្មួយទោសក្មួយមិនបន្លាយនឹងឡើងមកជួយបកប្រែជូនគាត់អរគុណបាទសូមអរគុណបងប្អូនប៉ុណ្ណឹងសិនបាទអរគុណ
Hello. It's never easy speaking after the wonderful Hong Lim. Thank you so much for everything you do, Hong, not just for the Cambodian Australian community, but for the whole Australian community. And also my good friend Yu Horn Chia, a true leader in the Australian community as well. I'm so proud to represent so many wonderful Cambodian Australians in our Australian Parliament. And I actually spoke this week on Monday in the National Parliament. We were listed to speak to say general things about the political situation, but only that morning I then got the shocking news that the opposition leader had been arrested. And the charge of treason, I think it was, for trying to bring down the government. And I said to the Parliament, that's the job of the opposition leader in a democracy. That is his job. And Bill Shorten is trying to bring down the government, but we do it in the Parliament and we speak up and we accept the vote of the people. And that is what you're asking for. That is what we are asking for in Cambodia. It's not too much to ask. And I've been reading the signs here as Hong's been talking, and I think the signs say it all. I've seen some talking about the Paris Peace Accords. There's a few people with that. We're just about at the 26th anniversary of the Paris Peace Accords, which the great Labor Foreign Minister Gareth Evans negotiated to end the war. And it is so sad that 25, 26 years on, things are not turning out as we had all hoped in Cambodia. Unfortunately, the opposition leader is not the first. He is now the 19th, 20th of very high-profile political prisoners in Cambodia, and that is too many. One is too many. And it comes amidst growing reports of suppression of dissent, suppression of the media, breaches of human rights, breaches of the law. And I see also some signs talking about the wonderful Dr. Kem Lay. I actually had a cup of tea in Noble Park with Kem just a few hours before he went to the airport earlier last year in the year and was unfortunately murdered just a few days after he returned. And it's appropriate that we remember him and do not forget his memory and do not forget the work which he did. The signs, unfortunately, as we'd hoped for next year, are not turning out. They're not auguring well for the national elections to come. All we want is to see a democracy where the Prime Minister doesn't say there will be blood in the streets if the opposition win, where the Defence Minister doesn't say protesters will be beaten until their teeth fall out. This is not too much to ask. One thing I would note, that this time, on this occasion, pleasingly, we've seen not just Australia speak out. Bill Shorten has spoken out against the arrest, but I was really pleased to see a politician in Malaysia actually speak out. The gentleman who chairs the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Parliamentarians for Democracy. And that is an important new development, that now if we can start to see not just Australia as a proud democracy, but other countries in Southeast Asia also saying enough is enough to the government of Hun Sen. You have to have fair elections and you have to respect the outcome. That's something which we will do our very best in the Australian Parliament in federal Labor, and I just saw Robin Scott there, the Victorian Minister with State Labor, to speak up against. So thank you so much for you turning up yet again on a Saturday to speak up for democracy, for human rights in Cambodia, but also for being such good Australians, standing up for our values proudly in the world. Thank you so much, and I'll do my best to continue to represent you. គំរូការនេះគឺថាចង់ឲ្យ
ភៀវកិត្តិយសអ្នកហ្នឹងលោកខាងតម្លៃនេះឬក៏លោករដ្ឋមន្ត្រីហ្នឹងគឺមានប្រសាសន៍ឲ្យក្មួយមិនបន្លាហ្នឹងជួយបកប្រែបងប្អូនត្រូវការបកប្រែទេអត់ទេអូខេពីព្រោះរួមមានអ្នកដែលត្រូវបញ្ញត្តិលោករដ្ឋមន្ត្រីទៅជើងមកដល់លោករដ្ឋមន្ត្រីមាន minister and the ហើយលោកសំខាន់បំផុតនេះគឺលោកប្រធានសមាជិកព្រឹទ្ធសភានៅរដ្ឋវីតូរីយ៉ាហ្នឹងគឺលោក Bruce Atkinson ដែលនៅខាងកំណានគឺខាងគណៈបកមួយទៀតទេបាទមិនមែនគណៈបកនេះខ្ញុំទេគឺគណៈបកដែលកំណាននៅកងបដាហ្នឹងគឺគេគាត់ក៏បានជួយមកដែរគាត់មានការចូលចិត្តទុកដាក់ពីរឿងសិទ្ធិមនុស្សពីរឿងខេត្តការពួកគាត់ជួបលោកកែមលីគាត់ជួបដៃអាដាមកឹមសុខានិងជួបអាដាមសំរងស៊ីចាន់ដងណាបាទគាត់បានឲ្យកញ្ញាដែលសិក្សាការនិយាយbecause Bruce has been here first minister I let the honorable Bruce Atkinson លោកប្រធានសមាជិកប្រសិទ្ធភាពនៅរដ្ឋ Victoria the honorable Bruce Atkinson សូមចាត់ឲ្យទទួលស្វាគមន៍គាត់បាទ
Thanks, Hong. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I heard Hong's impassioned speech. I'm not going to speak as long, Hong, but indeed I know that you spoke from the heart, and I know that you have been one of the great advocates here in Australia for a more democratic Cambodia. We appreciate here in this country democracy, and whilst Julian Hill, who I acknowledge, and I know Robin Scott as the Minister also shares my view, that this is not a Labor Party issue here in Victoria or Australia. This is an issue for all Australians, no matter their political colours. Because we all value democracy. We have all benefited from democracy. We have all benefited from, as Julian spoke about, the bloodless transfers of government after an election. We have all benefited from the fact that candidates have free speech, that they are able to campaign on their ideas and their policies without the threat of being jailed because they're getting too close to winning. We here value a press that is able to report those ideas and policies without the threat of being closed down or silenced in some other way. As Julian said, and I'm sure Hong in his remarks commented, on the procession of people from the opposition parties who have paid the ultimate price or certainly have been jailed or punished simply for expressing views and ideas and policies that they see that might be to the betterment of the Cambodian people and for the sovereignty of Cambodia. We need to ensure in Australia that all of us speak up and tell Hun Sen that he cannot behave like this, that in fact the expression of free views, the respect of human rights, is something that we don't see as simply something to treasure here in Victoria and Australia, but is something that ought to be respected, that ought to happen in countries throughout the world. You know, I just want to make an odd comment perhaps in today's context, but I actually think that Donald Trump is one of the most dangerous men in the world. And there is a reason for that. The reason is that when Donald Trump says that he might pardon himself or his family or someone close to him because he thinks he's got that right, irrespective of whether or not they've done the wrong thing, when he says that he can sack his Attorney General because he doesn't like what the Attorney General's saying and the processes that the Attorney General believes he has to go through, that sends a very dreadful message to people like Hun Sen. Because people like Hun Sen can then say, well, why does the world criticise me when you've got your so-called leader of the free world saying that he can do as he likes? Democracy is more than one man. Democracy belongs to us all, and in respect of Cambodia, all political parties stand firm with you in calling for democratic elections to the end of the silencing of opposition figures and the silencing of the media as people of Cambodia work towards trying to achieve a better future for themselves, for their children and their grandchildren. I hope that this rally sends a message. I hope that the words of other politicians and people around the world will somehow reach the heart, will somehow change the heart of Hun Sen. Thank you. Best wishes. សូមបងចាត់ឡាយខាងជូនលោកប្រធានព្រឹទ្ធសភានៅរកវិទ្យាបាទគឺជាឱកាសដ៏ពិសេសណាស់ដែលគាត់ក៏មានសមានចិត្តគូពីរឿងស្រុកខ្មែរយើងបានស្គាល់ទាំងអស់ឯកឧត្តមដ៏សំខាន់ដែលបានជួយមកនោះបាទឥឡូវនេះខ្ញុំសូមអញ្ជើញលោករដ្ឋមន្ត្រីក្រសួងវប្បធម៌មកគាត់ទាំងណាបងប្អូនមានការយកចិត្តទុកដាក់ចាប់អារម្មណ៍ពីរឿងសុខភាពរបស់កំណើតរបស់ខ្លួនហ្នឹងគាត់មកនៅស្គីបានទេហើយគាត់មកថ្នាក់ของគាត់តំណាងជារដ្ឋាភិបាលប្រចាំរដ្ឋវិទ្យានេះដូច្នេះសូមI just mentioned the minister. I introduced you to care so much family. What you must just about my youth, my youth, something like that. So my own job, just by my own time to start on board. Of course.
Firstly, I'd like to thank Hong Lim, my parliamentary colleague Bruce Atkinson and Julian Hill for being here today, and Hun Sen. I'm sure Heng Tak is here. I have to say, on a very personal note, I've worked a lot with the Cambodian community over many years, and my heart breaks for the people of Cambodia. Cambodia's tragic history should be happier. The people of Cambodia deserve better. Freedom, as Bruce was discussing, freedom, democracy, the rule of law, a free media, lie at the heart of what we have here in Victoria and Australia. And Cambodian people deserve the same. People deserve to be able to freely elect the government of their choice. They deserve not to be beaten because they have ideas which the government disagrees with. They deserve not to be killed because they advocate for human rights. They deserve not to be locked up because they're too popular and they have a threat to an incumbent government. We here enjoy rights which we value, and as Bruce indicated, we have a free transition, a peaceful transition of power. If my party loses election, we're not happy about it, of course, but we honourably hand over, and so same with our opponents. And that transfer of power is a necessary thing for a democratic system. We all know that that does not exist in Cambodia. And the people of Cambodia, if they elect the opposition, they don't have the same right to have a free election or a free debate or even the opportunity to vote for the candidates of their choice. We all know that to be true. And it's a terrible truth. A truth that hangs over millions of people, survivors of genocide, who deserve democracy, freedom, deserve to have a free media which they can have their free expression of ideas and debate, deserve to have the rule of law, so the rich and powerful are subject to the same scrutiny and the same laws as the weak. Everyone deserves human rights. And in the world today there is a debate essentially between a nationalist autocracy and democracy, and liberal democracy, democratic values. And I have to say, here in Victoria, we believe in liberal democratic values. We believe in the rule of law. We believe in people's free expression of ideas, and we believe in democratic elections. And we will stand with the Cambodian people here in Victoria and across the world, because this debate has to be won by the better angels of our nature. People deserve freedom. They deserve the right to choose their own government freely and to be ruled with their own consent, not because people have enough violence to impose their will. Here in Victoria, we will stand with the Cambodian community through this difficult time, and we'll help in whatever way we can to ensure the voice of democracy, freedom, rule of law, the freedom of the press is always at the forefront. And let us hope for a better day when people don't live in fear, where violence doesn't trump the free democratic will of people, and people live under governments they have freely chosen themselves in Cambodia and around the world. Thank you very much.
เนี่ยនិយាយបន្ទាប់ពីលោករងមន្ត្រីនឹងគឺកញ្ញាអ៊ីសាបែលស្កាប៊ីស្គីគាត់ជាលេខាធិការរបស់អង្គការក៏ដែលគេហៅថា International Commission of Juries បងយើងបកប្រែជាខ្មែរគឺថាជាគណៈកម្មការអន្តរជាតិខាងផ្នែកមេធាវីបាទមេធាវីគឺជាអ្នកដែលស្ថិតជាមេធាវីខាងច្បាប់អន្តរជាតិ ហើយគាត់បានដឹងពីរឿងគាត់បានមកធ្វើបន្ទប់មួយឆ្នាំរបស់លោកកែមលីនឹងគាត់បានជួបយើងខ្ញុំនឹងគាត់មានការយកចិត្តទុកដាក់គាត់បានណាត់ជួបជាមួយយើងខ្ញុំហៅប្រធានរបស់គាត់មកជួបហើយបានចាប់តាមធ្វើសកម្មភាពជួយយ៉ាងខ្លាំងពិសេសក្នុងចាក់តនការធ្វើយ៉ាងណាឲ្យគ្រួសារស្រីបុរចនាគឺគ្រួសារលោកកែមលីនឹងបានមកឆាប់មកប៉ុន្តែគាត់មានកំណត់រំលាយច្រើនគាត់មានកិច្ចគូរឿងរួមជួបបានថាយើងត្រូវធ្វើយ៉ាងណាដើម្បីដាក់សម្ពាធទៅលើរដ្ឋាភិបាលអូស្ត្រាលីនេះឲ្យយកចិត្តទុកដាក់កាន់តែខ្លាំងលើសពីមុនហើយធ្វើយ៉ាងណាដើម្បីឲ្យការពិភពលោកទាំងមូលហ្នឹងហើយពិសេសគឺរដ្ឋាភិបាលបន្ថែមហ្នឹងយកចិត្តទុកដាក់កុំធ្វើអំពើពីអំពើព្រៃផ្សៃអំពើដីឆាននឹងតទៅទៀតបាទដូច្នេះសូមបងប្អូនមានការអញ្ជើញស្វាគមន៍Isabel Skabuski from the RTJ
Thank you very much for having me here today, and thank you all very, very much for being here in support of these very important causes. I want to start by bringing your attention to some things that are very, very obvious to all of us. Things that are so obvious that normally we don't need to talk about them, but today we need to talk about them. First, here today, nobody will be arrested for attending this rally or speaking at this rally or even organizing this rally. Even if we were speaking about the Australian government, we would not need to be afraid of being arrested. Secondly, I can turn on the radio, I can turn on the TV, I can open up the newspaper or turn on the internet and find out what my government is doing. I can find out what they're saying in Parliament, I can find out how they're representing my interests, and if they are not representing my interests, then I can lobby for change and encourage them to take my interests into account. Thirdly, none of us are likely to be stopped as we're driving home by a police officer waiting at the corner and ask us for $20 or $100 and not give us a ticket and not let us leave until we pay them. Nobody here has to worry about the lands being stolen by the government and sold for their profit. Here, all of our children can go to school and get an education and write their exams, and they don't have to pay the teachers to get a seat in the classroom, and they don't have to pay the teachers to sit the exam and to move on to the next grade, because the government in the public education system pays the teachers. And mostly here, no matter how hard things are for you, no matter how difficult it is, you will never get to the point where you have to or you can sell your daughter to a brothel in order to pay your own debts. We cannot say these things in Cambodia. And the reason these things are like this here is because the government here protects children. They guarantee a right to education, to health care. They pay the police, firefighters, teachers. They work to protect the safety and well-being of the people who live here. This is why we give elected officials the power that they have, is to protect us. That is what a government is for. So why do Khmer people in Cambodia not enjoy these things when they have a government? Is it because, as Hun Sen says, Cambodia is a poor country and it cannot afford it? No, Cambodia is not a poor country. Cambodia has received $10 billion in aid money alone over the last 15 or 20 years. It has enjoyed fantastic economic growth every year, 8%, 10%, 12%, since 1995. Cambodia is a country where a minister in the national government earns, now with the new wages, just over $1,000 a month. Dollars a square meter, and he has a house as big as a city block. Cambodia is not a poor country. Cambodia is a country that knows war. It is a country that has felt a lot of pain and has seen a lot of violence and a lot of horror. And there will be people here today who know too much about that. I worked in Cambodia for 8 to 10 years with young people who were born after the Khmer Rouge, but who also know too much about Cambodia's pain and the consequences of living in a country without the rule of law. And I lived in Cambodia for long enough to see it change. And the changes that I've seen in Cambodia can be described by the image of these young people who I know and who I love very much. When I first knew them 10 years ago, they were scared, they were uneducated, they were hurt, they protected themselves and were afraid to go outside. And now, these people are leaders in their community. They are providers for their family. They are strong, they are smart, they are fearless, and they want more for themselves and their family and their country than they are getting. 10 years ago in Cambodia, people didn't speak about politics in public. And now they march in the streets. I was there in 2013 and 2014 when 20,000 people marched down Monivong Boulevard to protest their government, demanding increases in wages for workers and civil servants. I saw young people and I saw old people on that march. People who lived through the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, who know very, very well what violence their governments are capable of. And they were there, and they were raising their fists against the government, and they were holding up their signs of the white crocodile demanding change. And this is exactly what Hun Sen is afraid of. It's people who know what they want and people who are not afraid to demand what they want. But Hun Sen has never had to govern like this before. He knows only one way of ruling, and that is by force, and that is over a frightened and a hurt population. When Hun Sen came to power, people didn't have expectations of their government. They just wanted to not be killed by their government. But now, people want more than just to survive. People want to live. People want to live and have a livable wage. They want access to education. They want meaningful employment, regulation and oversight of services, industry, professions. They want courts that will enforce their rights, judges, and members of parliament they can trust. But Hun Sen does not know how to lead a strong population, and so he tries to keep the country weak. And he is trying to do this by shutting out ideas, by shutting out information, by stopping communication, by shutting out leaders who listen to what people want, and members of parliament who try to govern in the interests of democracy. But he cannot win this way. He cannot win by brute force. This isn't 1997. He can send tanks into the capital again, but it won't stop people wanting freedom and safety and education and opportunities and democracy. tanks will not keep out the vision that people now have in their heads about what Cambodia can be. Not today. Democracy is about the free exchange of ideas. In this country, we don't have a lot of human rights protection, but we have one civil liberty that is not written down, and yet it is law in this country, and that is the freedom of political communication. Because without this kind of communication about politics and about ideas, there can be no democracy. Now, I venture to suggest that as long as there is communication about politics, about ideas, about what people want for their country, then there must be democracy. And Hun Sen cannot kill communication. He cannot kill the need that exists today by Cambodians for accountable governments, for real opportunities, for security, and for freedom. And so this is your role right now. This is, as Cambodians living in Australia, this is your responsibility, is to keep information flowing, is to keep communication about ideas, about democracy, about the country that you want here and in Cambodia alive. It may be the case that your friends and your family in Cambodia cannot post something on their Facebook page about what they want from their government. But you can. You can post those ideas. And your friends and your family in Cambodia can remember what it is that they're fighting for. Hun Sen cannot break the democratic spirit that has grown so strong in Cambodia. And he cannot quiet Cambodians' hunger for real freedoms and real opportunities. He cannot do that as long as you don't let him. Thank you very much.
That was an incredible speech, Isabel. Thanks so much for your speech. So, we just have to have a long time. នេះគឺជាអ្នកដែលទៅធ្វើការស្រុកខ្មែរ8ឆ្នាំហើយដែលបានដឹងបានឃើញតែគាត់និយាយមកគឺចេញពីក៏ឲ្យបេះដូងគាត់ពីស្ថានភាពស្រុកខ្មែរដែលគាត់ឃើញថាតើនឹងទៅមានស្ថានភាពទៅយ៉ាងប្រមុខទីយ៉ាងណានោះគាត់ថាเป็นสำคัญរបស់តួអង្គដែលសំខាន់គឺយើងទាំងអស់គ្នានឹងទៅជួយធ្វើឲ្យប្រតិបត្តិឡើងភ្លើងកំហឹងនឹងនៅប្រទេសតមកទៀតបាទសូមបងពុំមានចិត្តឲ្យស្អីមកអាចចិត្តឲ្យអរគុណគាត់ម្ដងទៀតបាទឥឡូវនេះគឺលោកស្រីរដ្ឋមន្ត្រីស្មៅខាងគណៈបក Labor នៅកងបរានឹងគឺលោកស្រី Claire O'Neil បានជួយមកគាត់ដំបងធ្វើមកបានទេដោយសារខែកំណើតកូនគុកមួយឆ្នាំរបស់កូនប្រគាត់ប៉ុន្តែគាត់ដឹងថាបងប្អូនមកទីនេះតែគាត់ក៏មកដែរគាត់បានពេលដែលយើងធ្វើបញ្ជូនប្រតិភូទៅកងបរានឹងគាត់បានទទួលបានរៀបចំឲ្យយើងទៅជួបនៅចំនៅរដ្ឋសភានឹងដើម្បីជួបនឹងប្រធានរបស់គណៈបកប្រឆាំងជួបនឹងរដ្ឋមន្ត្រីសម្មាខាងក្រសួងការបរទេសនិងលោកផេនីវងនឹងជាដើមនឹងគាត់បានធ្វើច្រើនណាស់ដល់យើងទាំងអស់គ្នាដូច្នេះសូមបងប្អូនតាមចាប់ឲ្យស្វាគមន៍លោកស្រី Claire O'Neil បាទ May I just advise our very important friend here, the Honourable President of the Bruce, Elizabeth, and Claire, and the Minister Gone, that this is not just one single demonstration rally against Hun Sen's dictatorship. But in America, we know at least 5 cities, starting from Boston down to Lowell in Minnesota, down to Washington, D.C., and all the way to Long Beach in California, and San Francisco, and up to Tacoma and Seattle. So around the country in America. And also in France, there are 2 places, in Marseille, and also in Paris, in Monaco, and then also in Brussels, in Luxembourg, and in Berlin, in Germany. But the system one point that snap the group, the car that come with a to make it and you just that. I'm going to be a time, and also in New Zealand, they're doing it next week. I understand both in Christchurch church in Auckland. Now it's just so over please clearly. I just told our people that how much you have done. You're relentless in terms of making the presentation and pointing out and the many things that you're doing on behalf of the community. So you have the microphone now. Thanks so much.
So today, everyone, and I want to acknowledge the venerables that are here today, and I want to acknowledge the community leaders, Hong Lim, of course, Yuhon Chia, and the many other leaders who are here with us. And I want to acknowledge you, this incredible crowd of people who are here today again, standing up and protesting against what has become a completely unacceptable abuse of human rights that we've seen in these last few weeks in Cambodia. Now, I was very lucky recently to host a group of community leaders and some of the venerables in Canberra recently. And that group came to Canberra because they wanted to speak directly to members of Parliament about what is going on at your homeland in Cambodia. And we did this on the first anniversary of the brutal assassination of Dr. Kem Lay. Now, I was very lucky to meet Dr. Kem Lay when he came to Australia. He was a charismatic person and someone who was such a strong advocate for the human rights that we are all here trying to defend today. I was so shocked to see that this assassination occurred just in the street in Phnom Penh. And here we are a year on, and I am so sorry to see that things are continuing to deteriorate in Cambodia. Now, what you are doing today is so important and it's so meaningful. Hong has talked to me previously and again today about the fact that this is an organised protest of people around the world. Cambodians who are standing up and saying that their brothers and sisters at home, their families at home need us as Australians, as people who are your neighbours and community members around the world to stand up and say that enough is enough. And that's what we're here to do today. Now, I just want to say for the record that as a representative of the Australian Labor Party, as a representative of this community here in Springvale, what is going on at the moment in Cambodia is unacceptable to me as a person. I know it is unacceptable to you as Cambodians living in Australia, and we need to push the Australian government to stand up and more strongly say that this is unacceptable to all Australians. Now, I just want to say I think that the work that you're doing to advocate for your families at home is so important, and I'm so glad that you're here standing up for what you believe in. What we know is that Hun Sen wants to try to crush the spirit of Cambodians. I know that that is not going to happen because the things that people in this crowd, the things that people at home in Cambodia have been through are terrible. But what keeps happening is the Cambodian spirit keeps fighting through, and you push and you push and you push, and things have gotten better. And what we need to do is marshal the people around the world who are going to fight to build that free and fair democracy that we know that Cambodians deserve, and we know that that fantastic country can be. So I want you to know that I am right here with you. Anything that I can do, I will be doing. I will stand up in Parliament next week and I will talk to members of Parliament, to those who don't have perhaps Cambodian communities in their electorates and may not realise what's going on. But Cambodia is a very special friend, a very special neighbour of Australia, and the Cambodian people, our wonderful community here in the local area, deserves something so much better, and that is what I'm going to continue to fight for. And now I'll just say something very brief in Khmer, if you'll bear with me. Yuhon helps me. Yeung Cho Samaku, Kino Chia Muisak, Hak Kung Khmer Nov Brotes Australia Team Telayut Tor Sitik Momus Ner Kabos Chon Doi Sarai Noing Yut Tor. Okun, thank you very much, everyone.
យើងចង់ទៅបានបើយើងដឹងអាពលឹងស្មារតីដែលគាត់ចង់និយាយភាសាខ្មែរនឹងគឺវាឆ្លោះលាស់ទៅតាមតែភាសារបស់គាត់សូមចាំបងប្អូនផ្ទះតែសរសើរជូនបងអរគុណសំឡងទៀតបាទហើយសូមplease thanks every speaker here again សូមអរគុណចំពោះអ្នកដែលបាននិយាយទាំងប្រមាណនឹងអស់លោកដែលសំខាន់បាទសូម thank you all yeah ឥឡូវខ្ញុំទទួលមីក្រូហ្វូនទៅបងប្អូនវិញមិនដឹងគាត់មានកម្មវិធីយ៉ាងម៉េចទៀតកាន់តែ ជំរាបបងប្អូនថានេះគឺជាចំនួនដ៏ច្រើនលើសលប់ដែលពួកយើងទាំងអស់គ្នាដែលមកក្រៅផ្ទះនៅក្រៅហលដូច្នេះគឺថាបងប្អូនខ្មែរយើងទាំងអស់ឃើញហើយនៅភ្នំពេញក៏ឃើញនៅប្រទេសកម្ពុជាទាំងមូលក៏ឃើញនៅប្រទេសទៀតក៏ឃើញបើនិយាយចំទៅថាដូចជាការប្រកួតប្រជែងនេះជាមួយបងប្អូនយើងនៅនេះសមុទ្រនៅប្រទេសផ្សេងទៀតនឹងចង់ប្រកួតដាក់គ្នាថាតើណានឹងប្រមូលគ្នាចេញមកច្រើនជាងទាំងថាមិនមែនមានតែយើងស្រឡាញ់ជាតិយើងជាងគេដោយតែហ៊ុនសែនណាគាត់ស្រឡាញ់ម្នាក់ឯងជាងគេនោះគឺប៉ុន្តែយើងស្រឡាញ់ជាតិយើងស្មើគ្នាប៉ុន្តែយើងជំនួសមកចំនួនច្រើនដូច្នេះយើងគុណនឹងចំនួនទាំងអស់ហ្នឹងទៅយើងប្រហែលជាច្រើនជាងគេមែនទេសូមសរសើរតែដៃស្វាយគួរអនុទៀតបាទសូមអរគុណណាស់បាទគឺថាគ្មានអីនៅក្នុងក្រហមរបបប្រជាធិបតេយ្យនេះគ្មានអីតែជាងតែគេឃើញចំនួនហ្នឹងទេបាទហើយអ្នកដែលនយោបាយពិសេសនៅស្រុកនេះគាត់ថាឃើញចំនួនគេខ្លាចគេគោរពហើយគេយកចិត្តទុកដាក់ហើយគេកត់សម្គាល់ដូច្នេះការដែលបងប្អូនជួយមកនេះគឺជាសារមួយដ៏ធំណាស់សម្រាប់នៅស្រុកនេះផងហើយសម្រាប់តែអានីសម្រាប់ផងសម្រាប់បងប្អូនយើងផងហើយពិសេសបងប្អូនយើងនៅស្រុកខ្មែរដែលគ្នាមិនអាចធ្វើតំធ្វើបានដែលមិនហ៊ានតន់ចេញមកហ្នឹងគឺថានឹងមានការយកពេញចិត្តទុកចិត្តព្រោះគាត់បាននិយាយមកដែលខាងបានផ្ញើសារមកថាសូមបងប្អូននៅកន្លែងជួយធ្វើផងទៅព្រោះគាត់ទីមពឹងតែយើងនឹងឯងគាត់ថាពួកយើងអត់មានលទ្ធភាពទៅធ្វើហើយយើងទាំងអស់គ្នាក៏បាននិយាយទាំងប្រាប់គ្នាទៅវិញទៅមកហ្នឹងណាបើយើងមិនធ្វើទេយើងមិនផ្ញើសារទេគឺថាយើងទទួលខុសត្រូវធ្ងន់ណាស់យើងមិនអាចគេងលក់យើងមិនអាចទទួលបាយបានស្រួលបួលទេដូច្នេះការរបស់បងធ្វើនេះគឺជាការលើកទឹកចិត្តឲ្យបង្ហាញនៅស្មារតីគេថាដល់កំពុងពោះគិតគូរពីសពទេយើងគឺថាមិនដូចតាមតែពីមុនមកទេគេចង់ឲ្យយើងភ្លេចតែឥឡូវយើងមិនភ្លេចទេបាទគឺជាសក្ខីភាពនៃការស្នេហាជាតិនៃការគិតគូរយើងដឹងថាសពយើងនេះវាត្រូវដោយតែលោកស្រីអ៊ីសាបែលថាក្បាលស្គីគាត់បានមានសារអញ្ចឹងគាត់បានឃើញទៅខ្មែរអក្រទេបាទគឺថាគឺអ្នកទទួលតាមហ្នឹងធ្វើអក្រប៉ុន្តែគេធ្វើខ្លួនគេអត់មានយ៉ាងសម្បើមដូច្នេះយើងមកនេះគឺដើម្បីនឹងបញ្ចេញបន្តនៅការមិនសប្បាយចិត្តនៅការដែលយើងចង់បានស្រុកយើងឲ្យបានថ្លៃថ្នូរខ្ពង់ខ្ពស់ដូចគេដូចឯនៅជុំវិញស្រុកទេយើងគឺថាអត់អត់យ៉ាងមិនគេថាអត់ទៅឈឺឡើងក្នុងរដ្ឋស្រុកថៃក៏ស្រុកយួនឬក៏សិង្ហបុរីចំណាយលុយជាមិនតិចជាងពី300ទៅ400លានដុល្លារចុះបើលុយហ្នឹងយកមកធ្វើឲ្យពេទ្យយើងឲ្យបានថ្លៃថ្នូរទៅមិនក៏មិនធ្វើបាទនេះគឺជារឿងច្រើនណាស់ដែលយើងនិយាយទៅមិនចេះចប់មិនចេះហើយជារឿងក្រៅកាហាយរឿងអន់ចិត្តដែលរឿងគួរខ្មាស់អៀនដូច្នេះខ្ញុំសូមជូនម៉ាក្រូហ្វូនទៅលោករបស់ជាយូហនប៉ុន្តែមានរឿងមួយដែលខ្ញុំចង់ជម្រាបសួរបងប្អូនមានទាំងមនុស្សណាម្នាក់ដែលសំខាន់ក្នុងក្រុមយើងដែលអត់មាននៅវត្តមាននៅពេលនេះទេណ៎ខ្ញុំដឹងថាបងប្អូនច្បាស់ជានឹកគាត់លោកតាក់មេងហៀងបាទជាអតីតច្បាយក្រុងនៅទីនេះប៉ុន្តែគាត់ជាប់រវល់គាត់ផ្ញើសារមករហូតគាត់ជាប់រវល់ដែលធ្វើបេសកកម្មនៅប្រទេសចិនបាទគាត់ទៅនឹងពីព្រោះក្រុង Springvale ហ្នឹងគេមានគេថាជាបងប្អូនជាមួយក្រុងមួយនៅស៊ូចៅនៅប្រទេសចិនហ្នឹងហើយគាត់ទៅជាមួយច្បាយក្រុងគាត់មិនដែលបានទៅទេបាទជាលើកទី1ហើយគាត់ទៅនឹងក្នុងទៅទំនាក់ទំនងមានការសិក្សាជាមួយក្រុងរបស់គេហ្នឹងហើយដើម្បីចាក់ទាញឲ្យមានពាណិជ្ជកម្មទៅវិញទៅមកឲ្យមានចំណងទៅវិញទៅមកហ្នឹងដែលមានមកច្រើនយូរហើយដូច្នេះគាត់បំពេញការងាររបស់គាត់សូមផ្ដាំផ្ញើជូនពរជ័យបងប្អូនសូមអរគុណបងប្អូនមកដែរដូច្នេះសូមបងប្អូនម្ចាស់ផ្ទះដែរគាត់មួយចោះបាទI'm just acknowledging that Hing Tack is on a municipal mission with the mayor in his city of Suzhou. So because when asked, do you notice somebody here missing? And they all name him. So that is how popular he is and how highly regarded and highly respected he is. So we wish him well, and he's been sending message that. He feels very guilty. He wanted to be here. We can feel his presence here, and we know that he's strongly missed. Okay, I give the microphone to you, Hon.